Well, I'm just sitting out here on my deck and just hanging out for a few minutes. So I thought that I'd do a little preview for the service tomorrow. I've been working on my car quite a bit today. Actually, had a flat tire nail stuck in the side of the tire, so it was not like fixable. So thankfully, I had some kind of like roadside assistance, whatever coverage on the tire, so I didn't have to buy a. Well, I did have to get a brand new tire, but it was a lot cheaper. So I praise God for that. And then I had a headlight out, so I had to replace that. And now I'm cleaning my air filter and waiting for that to dry. So I figured, well, I'll just do a little preview here and of the service, and I'd love to get some communication with you guys, whoever's there and would like to chat. I don't know if I guess I can do this chat options. Anyway, so tomorrow we're doing this. We're in this series called Greater, and we're talking about neighbors tomorrow. And so I was wondering, what is it? Being that we've been in this like COVID season for a couple of years, um, I think it's been really hard for people to feel comfortable communicating with their neighbors or talking to their neighbors. But I'm wondering, how it's been for some of you with your neighbors and in your neighborhood. Do you feel like you know your neighbors very well? If you do know them well, how has it been in this COVID season, communicating or connecting? And then maybe if you don't know them well, I want to get some ideas from you on what do you think would help in breaking down some of those walls or those barriers in order to become a greater neighbor yourself. I'm working on that. Some of the things that I've come to realize in living here in this area, being that I have a dog now, it's like a dog just opens up a lot of doors for conversation. Everybody wants to pet the dog. Everybody wants to talk, about the dog or their dog, and so that's a really, I think, interesting dynamic that when you have something in common like that, right? Immediately there's this connection, and the way an animal kind of bridges that gap between you and maybe some of your neighbors. So, not saying that you need to go out and get a pet, but if you have one, or if you have a dog especially, and maybe you're not accustomed to walking him very much, or being out during the same time that other people are, maybe that's one of the ways that you could begin to bridge the gap and become a greater neighbor. And when I say a greater neighbor, I mean we can't be good neighbors if we don't communicate with each other. In fact, I was meeting one of my sort of newer neighbors. They moved into the neighborhood. I don't know. It's been maybe 6 or 8 months ago, something like that. And we just had this deck built on out here, and they live kind of diagonal from me across the street, so they can see out. They can see from my backyard this deck, and so he was driving home and decided to stop. He saw me out in the yard, so he decided to stop and ask me some questions about the deck, and so that's that was another thing that I thought was kind of unique, is that when we're doing structures, or we're doing work in our yard or on our houses, these can be ways to open up communication with our neighbors. In fact, my neighbor that's right next door to me, the same thing. As soon as I finished building my deck, he came over and had some questions about that, and was asking about who did it, how we got it done, etc. Why we did what we did. So that's another way of opening up some doors. I think whenever you're doing some construction, or you're doing yard work, or maybe you're landscaping, those kind of things can be great ways to have conversations with people. So tomorrow we're looking at a very familiar passage where Jesus talks about and gives a parable about what does it mean to be a good neighbor, or to be neighborly, and that is the parable of the Good Samaritan, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. You've at least heard that phrase before, a Good Samaritan. So I wonder for you, whenever you watch this, and you can give me some feedback, or even ask a question if you want to. Um, what is it? Has there ever been a time in your life when somebody was a good Samaritan to you, and what was that like? Um, how did it make you feel? And then on the other side, has there ever been a time when you've been able to be a good Samaritan to someone, and how did that make you feel? And was there some apprehension? I know for me, like, a lot of times when I see somebody walking on the side of the street, and I don't recommend this, especially for women, but um, you know, my dad has not been able to drive for, I don't know, for forever really, and he's epileptic, and so he can't drive. So he used to hitchhike a lot of places, and of course, you know, people would stop and pick him up, and they would see him doing it frequently, and so one of the things that that's a natural soft spot for me when I see someone hitchhiking, because knowing that so many people did stop and pick my dad up and gave him a lift, that I feel compelled to do that and return the favor. And so I do that often whenever I see someone walking, especially if I'm not in a rush to get somewhere or whatever. But um, but yeah, it can be a little unnerving, or a little, I can feel a little apprehensive about that. So how about you? Is there some other things that you do, maybe as a good Samaritan, that you could pass along to the rest of us? So tomorrow we're going to talk about the Good Samaritan. We're going to look at that passage in Luke. It's Luke chapter 10. And we're going to spend some time looking at different ways that we can be a greater neighbor. And let me just go ahead and give you this little tidbit, is that it's not just about our physical neighbors right next door. It's also about like different people groups. It's about even serving those that we might even consider as enemies, right? So I want you to give that some thought, and if you got a chance tomorrow, hang out with us online at 11 o'clock at newvisionc.com, or visit us in person. We're at 479 Emmon Road here in Fayetteville, Georgia. We'd love to have you. We're worshiping tomorrow at 9:30 and at 11. However, next Sunday on Mother's Day, we will be going back to one service only, and that will be at 10 a.m. All right? Hope you guys have a great afternoon. Love you. We'll see you later.